Second. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just come back.
All right. Yeah. Meanwhile, guys, let us know. How did you like the Moreficent platform? And also, I'm putting the link here so you can check it out.
Can you see the screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Please.
Just a second. Yeah, now I guess it's visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay, so sorry for that. I'm using a backup laptop tonight. Right, so as Siddharth briefly mentioned, essentially what we do is run desktop applications in the cloud and stream the UI to the browser. So over here, I have Android Studio running in AWS Mumbai. The UI is copied and replicated in my user window. So this is the same Android Studio that you can get from Google's website. So all of your plugins and workflows, including things like emulators, all of your testing frameworks, connecting real devices, all of them work off the bat without requiring any special sort of setup. In terms of why you would want to do this, even if you can, first is that there is no loss in productivity. So as you can see, the UI is about as responsive as Android Studio locally, and often more if you have like a student laptop or if you have a beginner laptop. You really have to get to the 2 lakh rupee MacBook Pros before noticing any whatever minimal lag there is, but basically there is none. That's one thing. Second thing is that since we are running this in the cloud, we can actually give you decent hardware to build your projects. So by default, we give everyone 4 cores and 8 gigs of RAM, which is really good for Android Studio. And we can scale that up if the requirements are there. So for example, for Siddharth, we scaled it up significantly to help improve his build time. And we can do the same thing for you on request. Uh, Also, like given that this is running in the cloud, your laptop is actually usable, so you don't kill your battery, you don't overheat your laptop. If you open Android Studio, Chrome, and Slack on like any normal laptop, your laptop will grind to a halt. But over here, you can have everything running. You can have 50 Chrome tabs and Android Studio open and not really face any heating or lag issues. Aside from pure hardware, we also have really cool collaborative features. So I can share this token and then someone else can join in and edit the session at the same time. The big delta over something like Zoom is that the UI updates are immediate. So on Zoom, if you try and take control and type, you want to pull your hair out because it's a painful process. But over here, it'll be very, very smooth. That's two. Third is mostly for enterprises where, as I'm sure many of you will go to want to work for large companies if you don't already. Uh, Over here, everything is running in the cloud, so your code and data is secure by default. Also, we can provide pre-configured environments, like you see 5 versions of Android Studio over here, and a few more versions of IntelliJ and PyCharm down here. Essentially, this means that you don't have to spend any time setting up your project, and if you have a particular setup that you need to build a project, so let's say a Java version or a Flutter version or a React Native version, you don't have to set it up again and again for everyone on the team and then deal with all of the issues that come with binary incompatibility and all that other bullshit. It all works by default. Okay. So we have platform docs that are available. I would encourage everyone to use it out. The platform is really new and quite experimental. It's built on tech that did not exist 3 years ago. So there will be some issues. Uh, Tech by tech, I mean things like standards and web standards and compilers and so on. So if you do run into issues, please file a bug. We'll try and resolve it as soon as possible. We also have built-in documentation. This continues to improve, but is still decent now. And finally, I should mention that there is a built-in file browser, so we can navigate to your projects, upload, download as the need may be. Uh, so you can directly upload your entire source code from here. If not, you can sync via Git. So Git, Vim, ZSH, Git, Vim, Vget, and all are available on Path by default. Okay, so over to you, Siddharth. Thanks.
That was a great introduction about the product. I believe, Siddharth, are we ready to the code our project that we have been waiting for?
Yeah, just give me a second. Just share my screen.
So everyone, this will be a very great experience for all of you because we are going to code the whole project on the Moreficent, so you can check the benefits and as well as how Siddharth is comfortable while developing an applications.
Can you see my
Yeah,
slide?
the screen is visible.
No, is the slide visible?
No, it's not slide, but I see your Moreficent session window now.
Give me a second. Okay, I'll just try to reshare. Yeah, visible now, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Cool. So, what are we actually going to build today? We're going to build this cool looking dice roller app. You can see that there is a start rolling button over here. And whenever I click on that, this die basically rolls. It rotates and throws in a random number. You can see that what number the die is throwing. So before moving forward, we need to cover up some prerequisites. First of all, and these all are from beginner perspective, so need not to worry that you'll not understand it. I'll understand. I will explain this in a very from a very beginner's perspective. So first of all, what a class is, you can think a class as a blueprint of a structure. Uh, for example, like there is a car. The car knows how to run. When you press the gas, it knows how to pace up. When you press the brakes, it knows how to stop. When you press clutch and then shift your gears, it knows how to do that. But a car is not actually a thing in which you can sit and drive. It's a very abstract thing. In the exact or concrete thing would be an exact car, that is maybe a Swift or maybe a BMW, maybe an Audi. uh, so are you guys getting it? The car is a very abstract thing, but an exact object would be a Swift, a Swift model or something like that. So a car is basically an abstract blueprint of some kind of structure. That's it. And yeah, so the object of that class or that Swift, you can call it an instance or an object itself. So next one is the method or function. Method is basically a piece of code which runs whenever you call it. So if you call that piece of code, that method 100 times, it will run 100 times. That's it. As simple as that. The next is variable. Variable is basically a data container holding a state. So it can be of the type boolean, it can be of the type integer long. So if I create a variable, is my app running, of the type boolean. So it basically tells us that it is telling us a state whether my app is running or not. So it contains some kind of a data. That totally depends on you, how you basically use the variables. Next one is the. By the way, if you have any doubt, you can just drop in the comment section, and Sohail will tell you. Yeah. And the next one is UI and the functionality part. So in the this is totally Android framework related. In Android Studio, what we have is we have two layers. One is the UI layer and other one is the functionality layer. So the UI layer is totally dumb. It don't know how to, as you can see in the previous example, this UI will be made in the XML part. So that XML part won't really know how to rotate the die or what number to throw, what to do when a button is actually clicked. But what it knows is what radius this die will have, what color this die will have, what ratio or what shape this dice will have, uh, what inner what view will be in the middle of this die, that is a text, what text or color will this button have, that is start rolling and it has some kind of a blue color or purplish color. So that is for the UI or XML part. And the next one is the functionality part, which basically will tell the UI what to do or tell the button what to do. It basically holds all the functionality, and the UI just knows how to show the UI to the user to the screen, and functionality will do basically tell the UI what to do whenever that is clicked or however you structure it. The next one is activity. So just to keep this thing simple, the activity, you can think of it like as a screen. So if you open up LinkedIn, the whole screen which you are seeing, you can think of it as an activity. So don't quote me on these, but yeah, you can think of it as an activity. uh, think the screen as an activity. So that screen maybe have can have 10 different parts, and so that takes us to the concept of fragments, where we can create reusable screens, but fragments is right now out of the scope for our app. Next one is the lifecycle method. uh, Lifecycle method, to give an example, we have, like, for our human body, we have three life cycles. That is, first one when we are born, the childhood, the next one is the adulthood, and the last one is the old age. So that is the life cycle of a human body. But similarly, the activity also have similar life cycles. That is on created, next one is on started, then on resumed, and then on destroyed. So these are the methods that get hit or that get triggered whenever an activity is created. So whenever an activity is just created, on create will get triggered. Next, whenever a screen, by the way, I'll refer to activity as screen as the same thing. So whenever our screen gets painted, that is visible to the user, then the on start part will get hit. But in the on start part, the user will not be able to interact it. So if the screen is just painted, the user will not be able to interact with it. The user will not be able to click on this button. He'll just be able to see what the button is. So after the on start is on resume, when the screen is fully ready to be interactive, the user can interact with it. So now in the on resume, the user can interact with the button or the whole screen. Next one is the on pause, on stop, and on destroy. Uh, on pause is basically similar to on resume. Whenever the screen is interactive, on resume is called. So whenever the screen is not interactive, on pause is called. It is just next to the on resume. And whenever the screen is just painted, on start is called. So on stop is similar to that. And whenever the screen is just created, on create is called. And whenever the screen is gets destroyed, the on destroy is called. And by the way, just to give a pro tip, on destroy doesn't get called every time, so it's kind of an uh, not so predictive thing that it will get called every time. So just try to avoid writing piece of code in there, or just know that that piece of code might not get called when it should be. Next one is a button. So button is basically a UI component. It's an English term. But in the Android Studio, a button is a class So it can have the on-click listener means what to do when the button is clicked, what text will the button have, what color will the button have. So that is the UI component. Next is the listener. Listener, you can think of it as a piece of code which will get triggered in kind of real time. Don't quote me on this, but I'm just going to abstract on this. Like, just to give an example of the click listener, whenever a button gets clicked, that listener will get triggered. It is not like that the flow will go from top to bottom and then it will never come again. The listener will always get hit whenever that button. The click listener will always get hit whenever the button is clicked. So there is also some things as called on touch listener. That is whenever the button is touched, that listener will get hit. So it's kind of a triggering thing which happens in real time. We'll get more on this when we actually start uh, coding our app. The next one is handler and animate API. These are some advanced topic, but just to make you understand this, handler in this app we'll be using to just perform a functionality with some delay. So handler is basically coordinator between threads. It contains some looper and it coordinates between a thread's message queue. But that is apart from our scope. You can right now in this project we'll just use handler to post some delayed functionality. Like we have to run this piece of code, or think of it like this, that I have to jump, but I have to jump after 500 milliseconds. So how do you put a delay in that? For that, we will use a handler. Like I will tell the button, uh, I will tell the view, this view, like here you can see that 6 just change from 6 to 2. So I will use a handler to uh, change the 6 to 2 after 500 milliseconds. And animate API is a API which is provided by the Android framework to basically help us animate the view. So in this project, we'll be using that animate API to basically rotate this dice. We will give it some rotation angle, how many times it will rotate, the duration for which it will rotate. Okay, so let's get started. You guys can fork the repo. Swell, can you put the repo link in the chat? I'll just, I've already opened it. So in the repo, you can see that there are two branches. One is the master branch. The next one is the beginner tutorial branch. Master branch has completed code. The beginner tutorial branch is the one which will be starting with.
Siddharth, sorry to interrupt you in between. I think we have some couple of questions from the attendees. So can we just take it for a while?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
So we have one question from Arpan. The question is, animations are quite smooth. Do we use any specific frame rate for it?
I didn't get it. Can you elaborate on it, Arvind?
Arpan, can you elaborate it? That will be really great. The animation are quite smooth. Do we use any specific frame rate for it? Also, we have another question, which is Ashika's question: How to generate random numbers on the dice?
So basically, Kotlin gives us an API for that too. So that is, you can write first a range like 0 dot dot 10 that defines a range from 0 to 10, and then you can use dot random. We'll see more when we actually coding. Did Arvind write anything?
Okay, I think that's an answer for you, Ashika. We have another question from Vanshika. It is, what is activity?
So activity is basically a screen as a tool. So in this app, you can see. Uh, Let me just full screen this. In this app, what activity is? from this white part to just above the navigation bar, it's just that screen is basically an activity. That's it. So later on, when you'll get more in an intermediate level in the Android, you'll get to know that you can create some reusable lightweight screens. So basically, an activity is an heavy component to inflate. So we can create some lightweight reusable screen using fragments. But again, that is out of scope for our project. Acha, like
All
just
right.
to answer Arvind's question vaguely. Arvind, basically the FPS, we just want to target maximum FPS we can get, that is frames per second. So why would you ever exactly define what frames per second you want to use? Like, right, you have to just get it max as maximum you can do. So basically, I guess in 1 milliseconds you have to draw 16 frames as far as I remember. So it will, or I guess in 16 milliseconds you have to draw one frame. Uh, yeah, so that will create some smooth UI. So it's nothing actually related to creating smooth UI that you will define. Okay, if you define 60 FPS, the Android phone will draw at 60 FPS. It is not actually like that. Okay, so are we good to go?
Yes, I think, yeah. We just have one question which is similar, I believe. What it takes to rotate it in the 3D? Basically, the question from the Siddharth.
What it takes to rotate it in the 3D. You can use a matrix. So a matrix basically, there are some transformations for the matrix for which you can scale that in the 3D, that is skew, stretch, or something like that. You can also use OpenCV or OpenGL kind of libraries, but that are like too complex libraries. OpenCV is a far more complex library. So yeah, for with that you can use 3D. There is also an API called as move camera. I'm not actually remember it. Move camera distance on a view. I guess with that also you can kind of tell the Android or tell the Android OS that from an eyes perspective you can move your eye in 3D. So you are not actually rotating the view, you are actually rotating your eyes perspective. So yeah, you can like always go on Stack Overflow and search these kind of things.
Awesome. That marks end of the questions for the prerequisite. We can go ahead with the code, I believe.
So I'll just go to the beginner tutorial. To clone it, go to HTTPS, copy this code, and now I'll be opening the Moreficent platform. This is the link, you guys can pick it up from the chat. I first have to sign in with the Google account. I'll choose a Google account. So yeah, that's it. That was our setup. And you can see that there are different kind of versions of Android Studio, IntelliJ, PyCharm, which you can use. So I'll share an experience of mine. Recently, I created a project in Arctic Fox a year back, and a week earlier, I just tried to iterate on that and improve, refactor it. So when I tried to run it in the Chipmunk Android Studio, it actually failed, and it was very annoying for me. So yeah, and then I had no option either to go and solve my Gradle files or either to downgrade to Arctic Fox. So, but actually, more efficient is helping us here also. So we can choose our own uh, this Android version in the runtime. As of now, I will choose Chipmunk, and we have to set up our Android sudo do not import settings. Yeah, consent next. Okay. Okay. So as this is running on cloud, this has like super fast internet. It will be done in some minutes. Cool. It is done. Trust project. By the way, another cool thing for this is also that you can scale this virtual instance anytime you want. So in the like in real life, you can't actually upgrade your RAM in real time, right? You have to go and then replace your RAM. But here you can just scale up your resources, like go from 4 cores to 8 cores, go from 4 gigs, 8 gigs to 16 gigs.
I think Siddharth, even though I have a very good laptop with the good configurations, that
Mhm.
still takes a lot time to even set up Android Studio and download all the Gradle plugin, isn't it?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Even though I see I have a very good configuration laptop, but the speed that I have seen here is like comparably fast because it takes a lot of time to just download Android Studio, install the plugins, and
Yeah,
everything. Don't you think?
yeah, like it can be because it is a virtual machine. So there's a concept called thermal throttling, where if your laptop gets heat up, then your CPU tries to thermal throttle your uh, message queues. So I guess it is because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think from my college life, I to have to increase my RAM for at least running an Android Studio. Running an emulator is was a lot of pain in the ass, I believe. But yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
having just
I
an
can
Android
agree.
Studio was a lot of tough task for me. Thanks to Moficent now.
Yeah, it is done. Cool. Let me just increase my font size too. Is this like is this font visible, or do I need to increase it more?
I think yes, it's slightly visible. Yeah.
So, like we're on the master branch. First we okay. I cannot see any branch over here. Yeah. I just switch to the beginner tutorial branch. I've already added some comments over here, so that you guys can get a hint of what to do. As we talked about, this is the main activity. That is the main screen we are going to have. It extends from an app compact activity. This is the extending kind of sign. So this means that main activity is child of app compact activity. As we talked about, this is the on create function which is already overridden. You can also see that I can override the on start function as we talked, or on resume function. Sorry, on resume function, and on pause, last one was on destroy. These are all the lifecycle methods we talked about, but I'll just remove it as we don't have any use. So let's just move directly to the creating the UI for this. So for that, I'll go to my resources. This res file is called resources. I'll go to the layout, and this is the main activity, which is related to. This is the UI for the main activity. How? Not by name, but I can see that there's a set content view function over here, which is telling this main activity that set this file to this activity. I can even rename it by uh, activity secondary, but that doesn't mean that uh, these both the classes will be unrelated. We check that by seeing this function, that is set content view. Okay, so you can see that here is our devices screen. I'll now have to build up the screen. This is the code for the UI, and note that this is not the functionality part. This is the code for the UI. This is still the UI part only, but we are actually coding it because we're developers. We like coding. So one thing we need to discuss more is view and view groups. So a view, you can think of it as the simplest element in an Android UI. So whatever thing you see is a view in Android. In a screen, whatever thing you see is a view. And what a view group is, it's a simple English term that uh, whatever contains a group of views is a view group. So this constraint layout, it has certain properties. This is a view group. So inside these brackets of constraint layout, I will define some group of views which will be contained by this constraint layout. By the way, just a pro tip over here. In the industry, we maximum mainly use this constraint layout only, but because it avoids nesting hierarchy. I'll tell you more as we proceed further. Let's just try to create a text view. Text view is basically text. Now you can see that this has two attributes, layout width and the layout height. So we can give it some certain width like 50 dp, 50 dp. Now you can see that this view is over here. I can let's increase it. This text view right now it doesn't have any text. This has 100 dp width and it has 50 dp height. Let's give it some text. So let's give it by developers. You can see that we can see a text over here. But why do we have to hard code it? We have to create a UI which adapts to the screen, right? For every phone, this 100 dp and 50 dp won't work. Like this screen right now has some certain height and width, but every screen in every Android doesn't have the same size in the world, right? Some is of the 5 inches, some is of the 6 inches, some are of the 6.5 inches. So we have to keep this adaptive, and how to keep this adaptive is we will give it some parameters like for the layout width, I will give it a parameter named as wrap content. So what wrap content is, just give it that much width which it just requires. Like if it requires 60 dp on a certain phone, then don't give it 70 dp, give it exactly 60 dp. There is also something called as match parent. Match parent basically means that this text view has a parent constraint layout. So whatever height that this constraint layout has, just match to it, just fill up that. So right now, what my text view has a wrap content width, so it has just wrapped over here. It is like using the exactly size it needs, not more than that. And the height it has matched to parent. But I don't want this weird looking view. I want this as wrap content. So yeah. Now we also need to position it somewhere on our screen. Let's try to position it in the middle of our screen. So how to do that? Basically, now the name of the constraint layout comes. Basically, we have to constraint this view to the screen. Like we have to tell that okay, constraint this. You can see there are 4 dots over here. Constraint this start dot to somewhere to the screen. Constraint this end dot to somewhere to the screen. This uh, end, sorry, this is the bottom one, this is the end one, and this is the top one. So constraint all 4 points, and accordingly it will get its position. For example, if I constraint the start of this text view to the start of the screen, so for this we have a command start to start of. I'll give it parent. You can see that something over here changed. Uh, this blue dot wasn't there, right? Like if I remove this, this has gone white. Means that it is not constrained right now. If I constraint, uh, it becomes blue, and which signifies that it is constrained to somewhere. Now if I give it end to end, now watch closely what happens. See. So first we give it a constant start to start of parent, end to end of parent. But what will happen to this view? So if I tell you that you have two, like you are a person, you have to go to first wall and you have to go to the second wall. You have to go to the both of the ball at the exact time. So what will you do? You will go in the middle of both of that walls, right? Because you have a specific mass, you cannot stretch out to fill up the space, right? So for that reason, we told this view that you have to go to start of parent. You have to go to the. We told this starting point to go to the start of parent. We told this starting point to go to the, sorry, end point to go to the end of the parent, and this has a specific size. So what it did, it got confused and it got in the middle of the horizontal space over here. Now, what if I add top to top of parent and bottom to bottom of parent? So for now, this became centered horizontally. To center it vertically, we will give it top to top of parent and bottom to bottom of parent, so that it has a specific size and it will get confused and come here vertically centered. And as it is already horizontally centered, it will like become centered for the full for the screen, total screen. So I'll give it top to top of parent, bottom to bottom of parent. So as you can see, it has come centered over here. Now I also need to give it some ID. Why? Because when we'll be coding in the Kotlin code, the functionality part, we'll need to refer it somehow. like the Android cannot randomly refer to this. It won't know what text you to refer. So we need to give it some unique ID. Not exactly unique, but you have to give it some ID. I'll give it tv.dice. That was for telling how this will work, but right now we need a button, right, instead of a text. So I'll add a button over here, give it wrap content, give it wrap content. I'll give it ID button role. We'll constraint it later on. Another thing I want to discuss over here is there's another view group called CardView. So when do we use a card view instead of a constraint layout? Whenever we want to give a view some radius, some color, and some elevation, then in the majority of the cases we use a card view. And also think that you can add a view group inside a view group. So we have a constraint layout. This is a view group, and inside that we can add another view group also, that is a card view. And this will keep on nest further deep into the hierarchy. If I like create a constraint layout and inside a constraint layout that is inside another constraint layout, so that will create a deepened hierarchy. And for uh, take it as a pro tip that a deepened hierarchy will create a janky UI. You can read more about that. There's a concept called double taxation, and the basically Android while inflating has to measure up the views, so it has to basically iterate over all the views. So I'll use a card view over here. Give it 0 dp as of now. So watch closely. Give it 0 dp. That is, it is a point. Zero width and zero height is a point. Now here's a special thing of constraint layout. I'll give it a ratio 1:1, which means that whatever the height of it and width of it will be equal. So if I have given it 50 dp, let's give it 50 dp, then you can see that 50 width and 50 height both are equal. Though this is 0 dp, 0 dp also signifies that just adhere to any other uh, params or any other attributes that we have given to this. Now I want to create this card view with respect to the percentage of the screen. How will I do that? There's a attribute called constraint height percentage. Sorry, not height. I use width percentage over here. So if I add 1 over here, what this will do is this will occupy all the width of this. That 1 signifies 100%. So you can see that in the ratio for 1:1, like whatever the width will be and the same will be the height. This has occupied all the width of the screen, and the width will be equal to height. So this has come out as this view, which is a square. But I don't need this 100%. I need some 65%. So it is now looking what we want. Now we want to center this in the screen. I'll again add a start to start off. End to end of. This will center it horizontally, which it already has. Top to top of. This will center it in the as vertically. Yeah, it has. Give it some ID. Now I need to give it some color. So hard background color. Add any random hex code. I'll go over here and pick up the hex code manually. I chose red color. I also need to give it some radius. I'll give it 12 dp. So now you can see that the corner also has radius, which is almost so this dice also is looking almost as we saw in the preview. Now to open up this view group to be like to add some views inside this view group, I need to do something like this, like add a right arrow over here. So this will automatically add this line over here. Now I will add a text view inside this text view, wrap content, TV dice. As of now, I need to give it some text, so I'll give it a 6. I also need to give it some size. I'll give it 42 SP. SP basically means that if you have your font size as large in your phone, then this will scale accordingly. This will not be a specific, it will be according to your system's font size. Next, I need to give it some color. I'll choose text color. I'll choose white. Now, next thing I need to do is I need to center it inside this card view. So right now we are not inside a constraint layout, so we won't be able to use start to start of end to end of. Right. So now to get it in the middle of the screen, what I will do is give it some gravity. And let's increase the point. Yeah. Now next step, what we need to do is we need to uh, take this button and we need to first center it horizontally. But second, we need to center it vertically between this end of the dice and this end of the parent, the screen. We need to center it inside this vertically inside this, not the whole screen. So for that, I'll add start to starter. Now I need to tell this top to be constrained to the bottom of the dice and bottom to the bottom of this parent. So that way this will become vertically inside the space, right? I'm telling this button to go to the uh, bottom of this dice and bottom of the parent, and it has a fixed size, so it will get confused and become vertically centered over here. Top to bottom of TV dice. So you can see that. Next, I'll give it start fully. Cool. So we have created the UI. Yeah, you can drop any doubts you have in the chat, and we'll wait until you guys give a heads up. So, can you put a poll? Sohail?
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah, I guess, guys, just one question for all of you. Cool. Also, you guys can post a question you have in the comment section as well, and let us know. And we can start with the coding. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think Siddharth, we are good to go.
Cool.
Before that, yeah, awesome. Cool. Thanks, Kavya, for acknowledgement.
Yeah. So now, as for the functionality part, first we need to, like, we have created the views in the XML. Now we need to use that. Now to use that, we need to create some variables as discussed earlier. We will create a variable of the that button we created, that dice, card view, and the text that we have to set randomly. So I'll just start writing this, and this is a global scope, which means that everything in this class will be able to access that. So I'll add a private modifier here. Private modifier basically means that nobody from outside this class will be able to directly access this variable. Give it late init bar, role button of the type. Now, what's this late init bar? First of all, late init means that this is a variable which is not initialized as of now, but at some later point of time we will initialize it. That is for sure. So the this late init bar basically signifies that. So right now this role button has a value of null. What this bar means? So Kotlin has a keywords of var and val. Var basically means that it's a variable whose value can be changed. Val means that this is a variable whose value is immutable. Immutable means it cannot change. For example, I'll show you. Val x equal to 10, var y equal to 10. Now, as I said that var can be changed, val cannot be changed. So let's try to change this y. So I have changed it. Now when I try to change the x, it will show me an error. Val cannot be reassigned. So that is what val and var was in Kotlin. Java doesn't have such concept. It has a final modifier, but it is something more advanced, I would say. It is something related to concurrency too, so I wouldn't go into that. So I've created a role button. Now what I need to do is this again. This role button is right now null. So our code doesn't know what are we actually talking about. What this is role button. We have given it as a type of button, but this is not exactly what we want. We want to like exactly refer to the button we just created in the UI. So for that, in the on create, again on create basically means when the activity has been created, not yet painted, not yet interactive. I'll create a function, setup UI, which is already created. You can see that there is a comment over here that is find view by ID is over here. I'll add this line, watch closely, find view by ID. Now, what this find view by ID basically means that, as the name suggests, find view by ID. So we pass an ID to this function as an argument, and it will return some view. So if I see the signature of this, it is basically returning some kind of view, right? I can also do something like this. It basically means that this will return a button type. You can see that it is returning of the type T. Now type T here will be button. So now we can, after this setup UI method has been executed, in the next line we can start using our role button just as we want. So before this, setup UI button, setup UI, I cannot use my role button because it is not yet initialized. Its value is null, so it will throw a null pointer exception. Now I need to create some more variable for CardView. And I need to initialize these two. By the way, when you will dig deeper, you'll see that there's something called view binding and data binding. In that, we don't have to do all of this find view bind every time. CV dice, another one is CV dice equal to find view by ID r dot ID dot CV dice. From here, we can start using view. Now, what to first do with our views? We have created, we have initialized that, we have set it that. First, I need to set some functionality whenever the button is clicked. Right, our app is triggered by that button only. It will not automatically roll the dice. Whenever the user clicks on the button, we have to roll the dice on the when we have listened to that user's event. So how do we do that? We create a function over here, set on click listener. I've already created it. Now, as we discussed in the prerequisite, we have something called click listener. Watch closely. Set on click listener. So what this is doing is whatever code I will write in here in these brackets, that will get run whenever the user clicks on this button. That is what a click listener is, and we are telling to set this piece of code as a click listener to that button. So hence the name set on click listener. So I'll write a comment over here that uh, yeah, we need to do some things over here. First is create a random number. So someone asked that how to create a random number. You can see how I will do that. Next is roll the dice. Next is set roll the dice for 1 second. Next is set the number to the text view. So these steps we have to perform. First, create or let's say generate a random number. Second is roll the dice. Third one is set the text view. Set the text view when after a delay of 500 milliseconds. That is the when the this dice roll is in halfway. So I'll create a. I'll just remove this line. Create a random number over here. This is how we generate a random number. We define a range first, from 1 to 6, and then use dot random. This dot random, you can see that this is an extension functions, which means that you can call this on any enter range we have defined. So we have generated the random number. Next is I'll create method roll dice over here. Now we will use the animate API for this. Let's see. Dot animate. These has several different values, like you can rotate it by some number, you can like change its transparency, that is alpha, by some number, you can rotate rotation y by rotation x by, scale this x by scale this y by, animate. I'll use rotation by. In this, what I have to pass is the total angle we need to rotate the die. We'll decide later on what angle we need to pass. Next is set duration. As discussed earlier, we'll rotate this for 1 second and then start this. Now, what total angle we need to pass is, first I'll define the rotation angle. I'll take it a random number between 100 degrees to a full rotation, that is 360 degrees. Dot random dot two. Next is the how many number of times we need to rotate this number of rotation. Again, I'll take this random 3 to 6. So now our rotation will look something as in real life, that all the things are random. The rotation angle is random and the number of times it will rotate is random. So the total rotation angle will be rotation angle multiplied by number of rotation. And we have just started the animation over here. Now one thing to note that the next line, this 57, starting from the 57 line, will not execute when the rotation is complete. What this start signifies is basically it will just start rolling this dice. It will just start rolling this dice. Yeah, if you can think of it as asynchronously. Yeah, give me a second. My throat is a little bad. Yeah, sorry. Running bad on throat. Anyways, so you can think of it as this is an asynchronous API, which basically will just notify that we have to start the animation and then jump on to the next piece of code. Means that this will, I'll write a comment over here, this will not be executed after 1 second. Instead, it will execute immediately. Okay. Now the next thing what we needed to do is dice number. So that is all the step. We need to pass a number over here also. We generated a number, we rolled the dice and then set the dice number. add an argument. Now here we need to use the handler. Like again, we discussed that we'll use the handler for uh, performing some delayed functionality. So that is how we use a handler. Handler provided a looper. Just ignore as of now. Though this is a like very important concept. Get main looper, you can think of it as that this is a looper for the main thread. Looper basically loops infinitely on the message queue. Message queue is the functionality, like blocks of a queue of functionalities we want to perform. So this gives us a handler which will do perform functionalities on the main thread and post some delayed task over here, as the name suggests of this function, post delay. Now, how do we provide a task here? We provide a task here in the form of a runnable. A runnable is basically a piece of code that gets executed. That's it. So I'll create another variable which is a runnable Java lamp. Yeah, whatever functionality we write in here and pass it over here with some delay. Then after that time, this runnable will get run. So what we need to do over here is just set the text over here. Yeah, and pass this runnable get text with 500 millisecond delay. Sorry. So that's, I guess that will do our part. I'll again explain what all of this is. We created some global variables as views, initialize them as soon as the activity is created. We have set it up our on-click listener. In the on-click listener, we have done three steps. First is generated a random number, roll the dice, then set the dice number. That's it. Let's try to run that in the emulator. By the way, is this functionality part clear? You can see a poll on your screen, or you can drop a doubt in the chat. Till then, I'll just install my emulator. Okay. You guys can ask anything, even if you have just out of the scope, you can ask that. But it should be related to Android or more features. Cool. This was super quick. Now let's run our emulator. Let's try to create another instance too. Till then, this is loading. So our emulator has loaded. Let's play. Soil, is there any doubt in the chat?
I'm looking into as of now not, but yeah, guys, if you have any questions related to anything, uh, just we are open for the questions. So I think Siddharth, we got one very good question from Vanshika. Can we run multiple emulators and does it affect productivity? Uh,
Yeah,
we
you
can
can.
do this by testing it out right now only, right?
Yeah, we can do that right now. So I'll run another instance.
Awesome. Let's see. Can we run multiple emulators at a single point of time, and does it lag? Because in my native Android Studio, even a single emulator doesn't work. So can't say anything.
So by the way, it will not lag your system because all of this resource is taking off the cloud virtual machine. So it's not actually using your system's resource. It is using the resource that are held up on the cloud. So what you can do even is that you can bump up your Visual Studio and use this Android Studio in a more efficient simultaneously, and it will not create any lag. So yeah, that's a very good thing. Uh, so the build is done right now. You can see that our app is up and running. Let's click on the start row. So yeah, it's running fine. It's also throwing a random number.
I think it's working perfectly fine for the both the emulators. Is it Siddharth?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, Vanshika, answering to your question, yes, you don't need to install so many RAMs right now in your laptop to just run an emulator. Uh, it's just come to the Moreficent and all the problems will be solved. Uh, okay, we do have some questions related to platform as well. So the very first question from Ishika is, I have my projects in my laptop. Can I upload it to the Moreficent? Can we do that, Siddharth?
Yeah, you can. I'll show you how. Just drag down this top bar. Click on this file browser which is next to the keyboard icon. You can see that this is the file browser of our machine. You can go to this studio projects, Android Masterclass. You can put up the images anywhere you want. So if you have a project over here. You can just upload this using upload file, or even you can create a folder, upload a folder. So yeah, that is how you can do that. Just use this upload file button. So did that solve Ishika's question?
I think yes. Ishika, if that sounds to your solution, you can just set this on the comment as well. Okay. Yeah. Great. Awesome. So, anything you have the question regarding the platform, regarding the maybe an Android journey, guys, we are open to ask. And I mean, Siddharth, anything you want to tell to other attendees as of now?
Not exactly, but yeah, though you can see that overall our platform is very well fine tuned according to your needs. You can even, like, again, you can bump up the resources. That's a very cool thing I liked for the more efficient. Yeah, you guys can check that out. It is free. Just go to the link we sent in the chat.
Also, so that's really awesome, and I think Siddharth, if we can do this, we can invite some people from attendee section who want to maybe have some question in their mind related to starting an Android development journey, or they might be able to ask you in case if one to one in the voice form, right? So okay, I see a couple of people here, and I'll choose randomly someone. Okay, let's talk. Kavya, can we have you on the stage? Kavya, you'll get a pop-up on your screen, and maybe you can ask any question related to Android or something you have in the mind. It seems an issue maybe. Okay. I think there's some technical issue. Maybe let's do with Ishika. Ishika, I'll give you a invite to stage pop-up, and you can just come on the stage and ask any questions.
Hello.
Hi, Shika.
Hi, Ishika. How are you?
I'm good. This session was a very amusing and I liked it too much. Hello.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any question?
Yeah, actually, my question is related to the journey of Android alone. Like, from where should I start? This is what was my first session related to Android, and I'm really interested. So, how should I start?
Okay, Shika. I'll just take you to the repo I just showed you. Uh, are you able to see the GitHub I am on it actually?
Yes, yes.
So this was the repo I first referred to when I was giving my introduction. So you can just refer to the README over here. These are the topics I have implemented in this app, and there is also all the resources I have added in the repo, some best practices, clean code, and uh, every resource, or you can even contribute to this. So yeah, you can refer to that. Another one tip I would like to give to you is learn by creating projects and read open source code. It's a very important tip that if you read open source code of any Google repo or of any other developer, then it gives you perspective that how to think outside of your outside of your environment, how to think from others perspective, how to think from a more advanced and a different perspective. So that is what I would recommend to you. So your question is a very kind of in general. So that is what I would say to you, that read open source code, try to create some more projects, create side projects, and deploy them on the Play Store. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ishika, for coming on the stage. Yeah, we have Kavya. You can post your question.
Okay, hello everyone. Since I think I am a part of a community now, so I wanted to ask you, can you guide my students to just make some open source contributions? Because initially, when I started my open source journey, I contributed into documentations, and that was not much difficult to get into open source. And I would guide everyone to just go to the documentations and contribute there, so that you'll be able to have hands-on open source. So I wanted to ask you, there are in numerous number of projects in Android development, like in Kotlin or Flutter.
Mhm.
So how can they start their journey for the upcoming open source events, and how will they be able to resolve their errors, and what can be their roadmap through that?
Okay, so here I would like to just first suggest something over here, that if you do, if there's a project like there's a project called Opia and uh, Ankydroid, which, so both of these are Android based projects, and they participate in GSOC. So mostly what people do is they think of open source contribution and they right away think of doing GSOC or some outreachy or some that kind of scholarship programs. So I would recommend you that, like, don't just get right into it and just try to contribute from a perspective that you have to get into the GSOC. Just take a perspective that you need to contribute and learn something. So you can see that Greenstand doesn't actually participate. I'll take you to the repo. They doesn't actually participate in the GSOC. They, like, it's a very small community, and like, you can see that the contributors are only 34. So it's a very small community. They don't actually perform in any scholarship programs, but still people are contributing to it. I contributed to it just because I want to learn something. So if you are, first of all, if you are new to the open source contribution and Android, and you want to get some learner's perspective, don't just go uh, just right away get into the contributions and try to explore the heavy code bases. It will scare you right away. So just go to the startup projects of the Google. Like, there's one called Now in Android. Try to search that. So let's see, Jetpack Compose. Try to search this. So you can see that this is the official samples of Compose. Like, any repos or any example or samples or code labs that Google is maintaining, it's a very good resource to get started with. So yeah, basically these are the things that I would recommend to you, that uh, follow any Google's resource, follow any repo, read the open source code. Don't just directly go into the open source contribution from the perspective that you want to crack GSOC or Outreachy or MLH, uh, that scholarships, right? Because whenever I started, when I started in my first year, I just started with Opia and forked the project, and I literally got scared because their project was too big, and the community they are running right now is has got quite bigger. So don't try to scare yourself. Just follow some sample repos that people are making. Like, there's a person called uh, just yeah, Skydo. You can see that people in open source are actually contributing towards this. So you can read these kind of repos that this person is actually making to help you learn some modern Android practices. So yeah, first of all, read the open source, read these repos, how they are actually in that, then start contributing to this. So the next question is, how do we actually start contributing? So you can see the issue over here. You can pick up any issue, or if somebody has added a good first issue, you can see that. Right now, this repo doesn't have any good first issue. Good first issue basically means that the issue which are good for the starters. Like it's basically some beginner kind of issues. You can pick up that, or even if you see some refactoring, like what I did first at the Greenstand is I contributed some refactored code. So I just cleaned up their code and uh, uh, changed their README and refined their README and contributed like that. I got started with that. So yeah, you can also do that. If you find any refactoring that can be done over here, you can create a pull request for that. And again, how do we exactly contribute is first you have to fork the project. Click on here, fork the project, and then open the forked project like we did in the Moreficent. This is actually a forked project. So you can fork this and push your code to your forked repo and then create a pull request from that. Like if I go to my repositories, uh, this is the Greenstand's repo I forked. You can see that here it is written that forked from Greenstand. Now, if I want to do some contribution, I will first push my code to my forked repo and then create a pull request from my repo to the Greenstand repo. That's how we actually do a contribution. There's a lot of tutorials on the YouTube of how to uh, contribute to open source. And yeah,
Okay,
like
Sohail, I wanted to say that I guess which the form you shared is accessible by your organization only. So I'm not able to access that, and so my team wouldn't be able to access that. Can you share, like, change the settings, anyways?
which one? Sorry, Sohail, can you look to it? What you said?
Yeah, it's maybe asking for the permission. Okay, just give me a second, guys. User input it's trusted. मैं on ही तो था. All right, that should be working right now. You can check it out.
Sure.
I guess yeah. So we have Gaurav Deep here. I think Kavya, does that answers to your question? I believe.
Yes, that was a correct
Awesome,
answer, though.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you so much for the joining the stage, Kavya. All right, so we have Gaurav here. Hi, Gaurav. How are you doing?
I am fine.
I
Yeah,
got
hi, Gaurav. So, Gaurav, you can post your question.
What are you? What?
You can post your question if you have any question. You can post.
No, no, not now. Not till now.
All
Okay,
right.
thanks.
Thank you so much. So, all right. So I think that's all, guys. Please, we have mentioned the feedback link into the comment section. Do give us the feedback. That's very crucial for us, I believe. And let us know what kind of sessions do you require from our side. We will be able to come up with that kind of session. And also, there are other master classes are also scheduled. So like this only, we built a complete application in the masterclass. This will gonna help us you to start your Android development journey. So anything you can go, as I think we have already shared the GitHub link, so you can just check it out, go over there, download the project on the Moreficent itself, try to run it out and see step by step how it's working and what's not. And also please follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. This will help us to know about you. Like, we are very loyal users for us. We'll try to make more value creation there, right? So yeah, I mean, that marks the end of the session. I believe you all have enjoyed really well. And I think, Siddharth, what about you? Did you enjoy it while live coding with the people only?
Yeah, that was a great session, Mark. Even the audience is very great.
Yeah, actually, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much, people, for joining the session, and stay tuned for our upcoming master classes. Thanks, everyone.